Hi there, I'm Marc Price. This is the 7th video in the Sound Daoying series. And as always, I'm going to say, if this is the first video in the Sound Daoying series that you're watching, please stop now and go back to the start. Unlike all the previous ones, you're going to have to watch all 6 previous ones before you come back to this one. Not just watch them, but practice them, please. That's not a punishment, by the way. That's an excellent thing to do. So please do go ahead and do that and enjoy it as much as you can. Okay, but I'm assuming that most people that are watching this have been through the previous 6. In this video, we're going to be making use of the sound that we did last week, or in the last video, called drooling. That together with another sound which we did in the second video, which is called you. These two sounds work nicely together. Firstly, because in the traditional Chinese medicine sense, they kind of, complement each other, because drooling works the liver and you works the kidneys, so they're kind of in a sort of similar kind of area, functionings of the body, and together they're kind of related to the adrenals as well, which is quite useful. I'll explain why in a moment. But also the drooling sound is quite an up sound, and it's sort of quite uplifting, and the you sound is kind of a very down, calm, peaceful sound. So the two together create quite an interesting state of consciousness, if you like, a sort of focused yet chilled kind of state, which is really nice. See how you feel about it when you have a go. That point about the adrenals, by the way, you may or may not be aware that the adrenals are closely related to the sympathetic nervous system and the fight or flight response. And we are trying to, amongst other things, deactivate that a little bit. Let the parasympathetic nervous system not be dominant, but be present, if you like, as much as it should be, so that we can cope better with stressful situations in life. As ever, this is sound and movement together, so very useful for anybody suffering from Parkinson's symptoms, because it activates the dopamine channels in the brain, so the receptors, and also I think the levels of dopamine in the brain. So it's interesting from that perspective too. I want to just go into a little bit more detail on the drooling sound, because it is quite precise, and necessarily I couldn't go into full detail in the previous video. I just gave you the basics to get through it. It's not much actually to it, but just a bit more. So it's called drooling, but it's pronounced ch, ch, I, o, e together. So it's ch, I, o, e, all strung together. So it comes out as chioi. That chioi is sending the sound up the spine. And of course, as you know from the previous video, we do that with some force, and we're using the force of the belly muscles and the pelvic floor to make that happen. So let's just have a quick go at that together, shall we? Are you ready? Make sure you're sat in a good position. We've covered what sitting in a good position means. If you're not sure, go back and check. And then, when you're ready, so it's quite quick, but hopefully you notice, and perhaps if you can slow down your video player, you might actually pick out the ch, I, or as I do that. 2 more goes. 3, 2, 1. Ch! 3, 2, 1. Ch! Good. Okay. We're going to use that with the U sound, the U. I think it's pronounced. The name of it is pronounced Y, but actually the sound is U. So there's not much of a Y sound in there. The Y is more about making the correct shape at the beginning of the sound. So it's Hu. we're kind of almost puckering for a kiss when we start, which is nice. And as we make that initial Y shape with the mouth, we make sure that we're properly positioned, so that we're sat correctly, and also we make sure that we have our breath in the right place. So we've breathed in by lifting up the pelvic floor, pulling the belly back, expanding the chest, so separating the ribs and moving the shoulders apart to really fill the chest up with air. And then we shape the mouth with that shape, the Y shape, and then we send it down. Yeah, so it's and you want to try and think it down as well. Yeah, so as you're breathing out, you're moving your internal muscles to kind of move it down, but you also want to put your awareness in there so that you've got a point of awareness that you're trying to move down. It's almost as if you've got like a little ball bearing or something inside you, and you're trying to use the muscles in you to move it down, but that ball bearing actually is your awareness. So you are the ball bearing, and you can feel yourself being moved down all the way, right the way down to the bottom of the torso, to the bottom of the body actually, into the perineum, if you can make it that far. Let's try it again. So breathing in, one more go. Breathing in, so my description, my explanation of the beginning of you, of oo, should I say, breathing in, the pulling back, the belly muscles, the lifting of the pelvic floor. This is everything that you do when you make the sound cha, or you should be doing. You should be lifting up the pelvic floor. You should be pulling back the belly muscles to make that cha, and lifting it up. So there's not much out breath, but there is out breath that makes that sound. But there is the same internal movement as we do for our in breath to make the oo sound. So what you can do is make sure that you've got a lot of in breath when you start the cha. So now what you're doing is you're sending this little ball bearing up, rolling it up, basically up the front of the spine, or through the middle of the spine, or if you can manage it, at the back of the spine somehow. And then you're rolling it back down again. It's coming back down, some way in front of the spine actually, as you're making the U sound. Have you got that? Do you want to give it a try? You know, knowing the concept is one thing. Doing the practice, that's when you properly learn it. And okay, just allow yourself to make mistakes, because it's through making mistakes that you learn. So long as you're aware that you've made the mistake, and you can then think about, oh, okay, that wasn't quite right. How do I change it? Not sure. I'll try changing it like this and see what happens. And this sort of constant change, constant try, constant practice gets you into the right place. So let's try again together, shall we? We're going to go chio, and then we're going to go oo, all in a single breath, essentially, or a single movement. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, chio! 3, 2, Just take a rest for a moment. I recommend actually having a sip of drink. I've got one right here, so I'm going to have a sip of mine. If you don't have one, pause the video, go and get yourself a drink and have a sip. Sorry, I should have paused the video as well there, but never mind. I wanted to watch a video of me drinking. Anyway. Hopefully you're ready to go again. So, get yourself positioned nicely on the chair. We're going to do 3 more. Are you ready? Nice in-breath to get yourself ready. 3, 2, 1. Yes, I'm just noticing that, you know, I tend to be watching myself on the video to make sure that I'm demonstrating correctly. But actually, to demonstrate the U sound correctly, you really need to let your eyelids relax. So the further the sound goes down the body, the more the eyelids relax across the eyes. Ready again? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Three, two, one. It's okay if when you reach the end of the sound, or before you reach the end of the sound, your sound has gone lower than you can actually make any noise from. Just carry on breathing through it and trying to make the sound. It's still doing the right job. Yeah. If you want to, pause the video again, have another sip of water. I'm going to carry on. Are you ready? Breathing in. 3, 2, 1. And again. 3, 2, 1. Did you notice in that one I started to make that squeak noise that I mentioned in the previous video? When you start making the squeak noise, you know you're pushing too hard. So if the squeak noise starts to happen to you, just ease off a bit, yeah? And also take a sip of drink as well. The chances are that this exercise might make your voice a little bit gravelly afterwards, which can be quite useful if you want to start singing some quite deep bluesy kind of songs to serenade somebody or something like that. But it eases off. So we're not creating nodules. We're just doing reasonably sensible sound, although it is quite loud, admittedly. Okay, shall we try again? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Now, I've got time to say this. I may have mentioned in the second video that the route that you take with your awareness as you're breathing out and as you're making the U sound can have there can be more than one route for it, yeah. And the normal route is kind of like straight down the front, but you can, once you've got used to doing that, so please do get used to doing that first. Once you've got that route, you can then try and send it down from behind the ears, yeah. So just, oh, actually that's quite nice, just sort of that sort of the bottom of the skull that sits behind the ears, that sort of like bumpy bit there. If you can get your awareness split into two, okay, so split your awareness into two, I know, which can be, it's quite tricky just getting your awareness to move around your body in the first place, but then splitting it into two, but you can do it, I know you can. It just takes a bit of practice for some people. Just placing your awareness there and then making the U vibrate down the sides of the neck. You might find it's quite good to bring the chin back and maybe grin a little bit to sort of create a bit of, I don't want to use the word tension, stretch in the muscles that run down the side of the neck. And then make the sound come down through the torso in the same way as before, and the same distance forwards if you like, but obviously underneath the skin. But this time it runs down the sides of the body, so it kind of goes behind the nipples and down into the hips essentially. And you can try that. That is basically massaging the vagus nerves. Yeah, so you've got vagus nerves that run down here, and they follow a route that goes through the body into some plexus that's in the middle of the body, but they also reach out and go down into the hip joints somehow. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly the route, and probably it varies slightly from one person to another, but you'll find that that the vibrations will tend to find them for you as you go down. So have a go at that if you're ready. Yeah. Let's do that now. Let's do 3 more goes with Due and you together. Are you ready? Breathing in. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to leave it at that in terms of instruction for today's video, but I just want to give you some homework explicitly. In each of these videos, I've hopefully at least hinted at the idea that you're going to have to do some practice in between. Now I'm telling you, do some practice this. So when you've watched a video, practice it for a week, once a day. Yeah, so practice it for 7 days, then look at the next video and practice that, and so on and so forth, to make sure that you've really got the hang of each sound. And now for this one, I'd like you to practice those 2 sounds once a day for a week before you move on to the 8th and I believe last video in this series. So practice is really the key here. Practice makes perfect. Play with it. Don't be afraid. Don't think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm doing it right or if I'm doing it wrong. The trouble is, you see, with this sort of one-way medium, I can't see you and hear you and therefore give you feedback. So you're going to have to play around with it a little bit and fine-tune and just notice what you notice. Hopefully at some point in the future we'll get back to normal and I can start giving some interactive instruction on this where I can give people feedback. But in the meantime, you're going to have to go with what you get from yourself from doing the practice. So I really, really urge you to do the practice before you come back and watch video number 8. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.